So I use the Affinity suite of products. So their word processor is Publisher, they call it Publisher, and the drawing program is Designer. They also have a Photoshop type product as well. And so the reason that I use these things is that I don't like Word. I find Word is kind of clunky and frustrating. One of the things that I really don't like about it is that it doesn't deal very well with PDFs. So if you want to put if you've got a map that's got shaded areas in it or information in it, and you want to put it in, it's got to be in the form of a PNG or a JPEG type file, a picture file. And so when you go to try and use it and you zoom into those things, then it just pixelates out and you can't see any detail. I find that really frustrating. And there's lots of other issues with Word. I do have it, I do use it because so many people do use it, so I have to deal with it. But certainly from my work, I can't be bothered with it. I started off using the Adobe InDesign products, which is very similar to this Publisher stuff, but it's also really expensive. So the last time I checked, the word processor and the drawing program were like $1,500 for the year. And when I found this cheaper product, I switched to using that, and it basically does everything that I need to do. And I just checked. So I believe currently they're charging $109 per product, or $260 for the 3, and that's a one-off payment. So once you've paid for it, then you own it. It's not a subscription, although they started off with version 1, and that went for a few years, and then they put out version 2, so you had to buy version 2. So it's not like forever, but they do updates and so forth. And there's also, very importantly, a lot of guidance on how to use it on YouTube. So you go to YouTube and you can see a video on basics of Affinity Publisher, how to use it, how to do the drawing program. The drawing program, pretty neat, and a lot of graphic artists use it and do all sorts of amazing stuff with it. I simply use it to do very basic markups to plans and so forth that I have. So what I thought I would do is give you a look at the basic setup of the Publisher and see how we go with that. And I don't know if we've got time or the energy to have a look at the drawing program. I know Mark was interested in the drawing program, and he had a look at that. But for mine, the Publisher, the word processing program is really useful and interesting. So I will.
Peter, can you manipulate PDFs like Adobe?
So you can add a PDF. You can drop a PDF into the drawing program, and then you can draw all over them and do stuff. But what I find interesting about that program is that if I get sent a file by a client in a PDF and it's got a drawing, I can actually get into the layers of how that PDF was built. And that's really useful because sometimes the architect will send me a drawing and it's got lots of stuff in it that I don't really want. And so I can just turn that stuff off So yes, but it's not a PDF viewer the same way as Adobe, or well, I use PDF Expert for my stuff. So I don't know if that answers your question.
You use PDF Expert, did you say?
Yes, there are
Okay.
others. There's a whole range of them. I like
Yeah,
PDF.
I use Adobe, but it's very expensive.
Yeah, so I stopped using Adobe products because they're just so expensive. I just think, and I mean, I rang them up and said, because they have a geographic price, so we pay more in Australia than other people do. And I rang them
That's
up
right.
and I said, what's the go? And they said, oh, well, if you don't like it, just bugger off. So I went, okay, I will leave.
When you say it's expensive, Peter, how much?
The Adobe stuff.
Mm.
I'm
It
not
costs me about $27 a month for Adobe.
Yeah, right. So you do have to pay for this expert, and I forget how much it is per year. It might be $100, or I can't remember. You'd have to look it up. But there are a number of them. There's also Wondershare PDF Element is also very good. What I like about it is it allows you to put a watermark on, which I do regularly. So I produce a draft report and watermark it. And then when I get paid, I take the watermark off. So I will.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
While you're doing that, Peter, can I ask if anybody else uses ArborCAD?
Yes, you can. Does anyone else use ArborCAD?
Yeah, I use
right.
it.
Yeah, me too.
I
That's
just
a battle.
think, I think ArborCAD produces beautiful, clear plans, and again, you can delete all the layers that you don't really want.
Yeah, wondering for the price of it.
I've struggled with it from the moment I bought it, and yeah, it's a $4,000 boat anchor as far as I'm concerned. I've really struggled with it.
Yeah, we
it's
had
like-
the training lessons to go with it as well, to walk us through. I hadn't used CAD programming before, but with a couple of hours of training, you got the hang of it enough to use it. But you're right, Rob. It depends on what the file you get sent. It's amazing the amount of files we get sent that were just ridiculous or so far from zero, and it was just you couldn't find it. And
Yeah, that's right.
That's really painful.
Yeah, I've had that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the files you get with all the stuff that the architects don't even know it's there.
Exactly.
Yeah, so many layers to it. Yeah, no, I've bought the training program. I'm halfway through it, but I guess I haven't got a CAD background, and I've just struggled with it, to be honest. And I'm a little bit.
It is really, really hard. I've used it for a few years. I still struggle with it. I get by now, and it's really sort of invaluable to me now.
Yeah.
I can see the use for it. I really do. I can see.
Yeah.
That's why I bought it. Like, watching the demos and having the demos with them. Like, wow, this is really good. And now I've started using Trimble. I bought a Trimble locator, a DA2 locator, which gives me northings and eastings, as opposed to I was using ProofSafe to collect data, and that gives you latitude and longitude. So to convert latitude and longitude to northings and eastings, that's another process. So now I can, get an Excel spreadsheet with northings and eastings and just populate that straight onto ArborCAD. So I'm going to start doing a few practice runs with my property. I've got 10 acres, so I'll start doing that. But yeah, I can really see the benefits of it, and it looks really good. And I've played with it a fair bit, but I've just got to keep going. Otherwise, it's $4,000 wasted.
Yeah, I'd say stick with it, because once you do get your head around it and how the drawings work, it's a really good tool.
Okay.
And like for a lot of my stuff, I will get sent out some plans. I'll put the tree protection zones on that, and then you're able to send that back to your engineer or your developer in the DWG, and then they can use that then. So
Yeah.
It's good to be able to give that back to your client as well.
And that's all to scale, isn't it? You know, like it's
Yeah.
on their drawings, so you're talking the same language.
Yeah, and a lot more are asking for that now as well. So, you know, I do my part of the drawings and then I send that back to them and they can do whatever they need to do on that, but it shows those tree protection zones on their plans, which is what they should be doing, basically.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see the benefit of it, and it is a good program. It's just me, and I've just got to keep at it, like you said.
But if you have trouble with it, you want to get on the phone and you can spend as much time as you like talking to them.
Yeah, they'll help.
They're very, very helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
And you've got to have a computer with the right specs, otherwise it's useless. We tried it on a basic out of the box computer. What a waste of time! Just crashed every time you opened it. You really need an upgraded computer.
Yeah, no, I did that. I had one purpose built. My son's an IT geek, and he put me onto a guy who built me one. So it was built to handle it. So it does do it. It's just me. That's all it is. Just I've just got to keep at it. It looks fantastic. And that's why I bought it, because you know how easy is it? You know, put in your northings and eastings and populate it onto the plan. You know, like it's just learning to scale your pictures, and then doing that. I can really see a benefit of it.
Yeah, definitely. And then once you make a neat little title page with your logo on it, it just looks it looks really professional.
Yeah.
And it's having a process when you get your drawings, your DWGs from your client, just going through a step-by-step process for me of as soon as you load it up, locate the drawing, check the layers, check the colors, because in AutoCAD, a lot of people work in white lines on a black background. ArborCAD works with black lines on a white background. So you can't see half of their drawing because it's drawn in white. So it's just going through that process of making all the lines black, getting all your layers switched on and all that process.
Yeah.
First thing I do is check the background, change the color of the background to see what you can't see.
Okay. Yeah.
But the second thing I do is change the palette to the ArborCAD Special.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's that one, Rod? The ArborCAD Special?
ArborCAD Special palette, yeah.
Yeah, right. I just always use I just save the palette that they send me, so it's all the same color, and then use that. ArborCAD Special, hey?
Yeah, and that works well on white, but white background. But you can still change the background to any color you like. So, yeah.
I use a different software because I trained as a designer. So I use a program called Vectorworks. So I do all my tree drawings in Vectorworks. Yeah.
Is it pretty similar, Vicky?
Yeah, it's got all the layers, design layers and that sort of thing. But I think originally TAFE used to use AutoCAD, and then it became too expensive. So they went to Vectorworks. But yeah, I thought I'd be able to pick it up easily, but it took a fair bit of work. And I'm sure I don't use it for its full capacity, but I do design my design projects in that.
Excuse me, guys. Can anybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Except it's black.
Oh, it's black. Okay, so you can see it. Wonderful. Great. That's good news. All right, so this is this. I've got it, Mark.
Yeah, thank you.
This is this word processing program. That was a very interesting discussion about ArborCAD, actually. Thanks for that, guys. What I thought I'd do is just run through the basic setup of a document. And so this is the Affinity Publisher. You've got the normal stuff. You can open, you can create a new file. You can open an existing one, etc., etc. You can do all this stuff up here, which we need to use. So I will make a new file, and that gives me this dialog box here, and we've got an A4 as the default. That's normally what we would use. You can choose the layout, so you can have facing pages or and so forth. They also do stuff like adjusting your margins and the bleed and things like that. This is the default, so we just create that, and here's the blank page. So over in this section here, we talk about the pages. So we've got a master page and then the page that you actually work on. These master pages are really useful because they allow you to set up a template for different parts of the report. So, for example, in our master, I'll get together 3, 1, 2, and another one. And so I've set 2 up as portraits and 1 up as a landscape. So we'll think about that a bit later. So on this first master page, I'm going to make a title page, and that's useful for most of your reports. So the first thing I'm going to do is put a nice pretty little logo in here, and so I use these tools down the side here. We've got a tool which selects, so I can select stuff with it, and that tells the program where I'm working in it. And this is something that you use all the time. This is a text box, so if I want to write some text, I can simply tell it where and how big to do that text box. Talk about that a little bit more. I can move it around and adjust it however I want, but and some other stuff here, which if you're going to use this program, you really do need to go to the YouTube channels and have a look and work through some of this stuff and practice it. But just for the moment, I'm going to put a little logo in here. And so I want to put an image in there, and I will use an image that hopefully I have selected before. Here's one. So nice little flower in there. That's going to be my logo. And up in here, I'm going to write some stuff. So I just write the name of my and so forth. And I can do lots of stuff with it. So if I want to, I can put a little line across here and you know, make it, design it however you want, change the color. Let's have a yellow line, and oops, don't want that. And then go on and do whatever it is that you want to do to make up your title page. I also like to add some information about the company. So down here I'll have like a footer, and so I'll do things like the ACN or ABN number, and you can, like I say, you can design this and put this stuff however you want. And then that becomes your master A page, and that's the title page that you can use. So the next one we want is in the actual body of the report. So what I want to do is write stuff. And the first thing I will do is select an area to write in. And I'm just going to do that. Here is a list of the types of fonts that I can use. And if I choose that particular one, I can then text.
Peter, can I ask you a question?
Yep.
You're have always been a avid fan of Apple. Why
Yeah.
aren't you using Pages rather than
Because
than this
Pages
software?
is hopeless. It's worse than
Word? Any other
Word.
Mac users here got any experience?
So one thing that you should realize is that this Affinity stuff works for either PC or Apple. You just get the one that suits you. It's the same cost and it works in a similar way. Okay, so the reason that I can't get it, okay, here we go. This will set up this font that you want to use. So, and this is all of that over here. So you can change the type if you want to use, for example, if you want to use Times New Roman, you can, or whatever it is that you want. And once you've set that up, then every time you make a new page in your document, it will take all the details out of this master and just automatically set it up for you and get it going for you. So with Word, you use headers and footings. This program doesn't do that, but it does allow you to make your own. So in this master B that we've got going on here, I will just set up basically a footer, and I'm going to put some information in there so I can put in there the file name. So it might be the I don't know, the Byron Bay job, whatever it is, and those details that you want to add in there. I also want to do a page number and date. So in here, I'm going to do that. And I'll make a little box for it. I'll go over here and go to insert, and I want to insert a field. So I will, I can insert a page number, and I will say page, whatever it is, of, and then I want the total number of pages, total pages, and then that'll automatically organize that for me.
Peter, can I push you? And I might be wrong, but can you open up just a report or a template that you already have done and already got, just to show us what that's like?
So this is one that I use, and there's my title page, table of contents, and off we go into the report. There's the footings that I've just spoke about.
Yep.
And I've got a table in there that I've added. Each of my pages has got my little logo and footer.
Yep.
And then I can add in pictures and drawings as well. And that's what this is about. So that's what I'm going through the setup of.
Yep. So now I might be wrong, and I'm happy for the team to tell me that I'm wrong. But one of the things in particular that's a pain in the neck for arborists is the tree protection plan. That's what we're talking about, CAD stuff earlier on.
Yeah.
This is CAD software in that it allows you to work on a drawing file or a PDF and work. Now you said there's a difference between vectors and raster files, but essentially essentially the two interact with each other.
So when I'm doing that stuff, I use the other program, which is the design of the drawing program.
Yeah.
And so if I open an existing one.
Anyone, did I overstep the mark there in terms of please speak up, turn your mic on and say, hey, I want to do more on the template setup? Because if we look at what you've demonstrated is that you can get the software to do what Word should do and Pages should do. And most of us have Word, Pages or something equivalent in terms of Open Word or something like that. The question is, what do we do when it comes to the drawing? And this is
Okay, so the problem with okay, I'm happy to move on and look at the drawing program rather than the word processor.
Yep.
The issue with this though is that you still have you're going to have a problem adding it into your Word doc because
you can export it as a JPEG, you can export it as a PDF.
Yes.
And you can export it as a Word file. So you can use this to produce the plan and then put it into a Pages or a Word. Yeah, excellent.
So there's all of the different formats that it will export as.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a drawing that I've been given, and you can see over here there's a whole heap of layers, and I was saying that you can get at the layers. So I'm just turning various layers on and off here, and depends on how it's been drawn as to sometimes the designers build the same things on the same layers. Sometimes they scatter them all over the place, but you can get at those layers and manipulate them. So if I want to put some trees in here, I want to add it as a layer. And I will give it a name so that I can find it again. I'm going to go and open
Excuse me, Peter.
Yeah.
What format do you get that drawing given in to be able to edit it in
That's a PDF.
Affinity? It's just a PDF. You get it as a PDF.
Yeah,
and can edit it like that.
Yeah,
that's one of the neat things about it. I mean,
Cool.
it'll take PDF or drawing, DRW, which is
sometimes it will open DWGs, but not always. But usually I can get the client to, even if it is a DWG, they can just turn it into a PDF and send it to me. So what I've done is I've got these pre-drawn tree shapes that I use, and I just chosen one of those. I've copied it and go back over here. I've got my layer here and I just paste it. So I can put it wherever I want. I can resize it. And I'm putting one tree there and there's another one over here. So what I'm doing is just copying it, and you can learn how to do that.
Can you do that to scale?
Yes.
Like you can scale a TPZ.
Yeah. So if I go over here and get my document set up, and it defaults to points, but if I change it to millimeters, then down here, this is the size of the drawing, and they should tell you what it is somewhere. Scale 1 to 200. So if I tell it to do 200, then it should be sized to scale. And also if I have, there's my tree, and I want to number it. I'll speak to your question first. So I'm just going to make like an icon for the tree protection zone. This is using this default shape, so I just have to tell it what I want it to do. And I want it to have no middle. The stroke, I want it to be dots, and I like to do them like this and make them about that so big. And there's my tree protection zone icon. So if I transform it down here, I can tell it how big I want it. So if I tell it to be 40 by 40, there we go. And I just need to check what those measurements relate to. That is a radius of 44 meters. I think that's
Point, yeah.
probably. And so if you've got another tree protection zone over here, so I can choose this, copy it and move it over. I have a different tree protection zone here, so this one might be double that size. I can just tell it what to be, and I can position it. So I do need to manually position it. I haven't found out how I can automatically center this, so it is a little bit lumpy in that way. But I've got some grids in the background that you can see which help that.
One thing, Peter, about ArborCAD, it centers itself.
Yeah. So
Yeah, look, ArborCAD is, there's no question, ArborCAD is the superior way to do it. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. I think the issue with ArborCAD is it's currently what, about $3,000?
yeah, and this is $100.
Yeah, and it both essentially can perform the same. It's just not that they necessarily will. And so if you're doing 5 or 10 tree protection plans a year, ArborCAD's very expensive. If you're doing 100 a year, then ArborCAD's comparatively affordable. So I guess that's the context of, you know, what do you do if you want to just do the occasional tree protection plan rather than be doing 2 or 3 a week.
That's exactly right. And, you know, there are definitely some things around this that are a little bit lumpy and not perfect, but I think you can say that about most programs. So if I want to say I would need to put a fence around this tree protection zone here, what I will do is choose this pen and that particular iteration of it, and I can just simply draw my fence around here. I can draw it manually, or I can make a box and have that as well. And then I need to make it different to my tree protection zone, so I might do it like this and a different color. Let's make it red. So there we go. There's my fence.
So can I ask the participants, just so again I get an idea, who here is running ArborCAD at the moment? Hands up. 2, AutoCAD or the equivalent? No, just no one. So how long did it take you two that are using ArborCAD, how long did it take you to get familiar with and master it?
I don't think anyone really masters it.
Oh, sorry, Mark, I didn't see you come up earlier. Hang on. Let me extend that. No, it's not going to let me see all of you at once in the
That's
Facebook.
right. You don't miss so much.
For me,
Okay,
anyway.
yeah, no, it does.
For me anyway, I'm sure I only use a small proportion of it. There's so much stuff you can use, and you're never going to learn it all. So I think you just learn what you want to use.
Yeah, yeah. Look, because it is a design software that's essentially out of designing all sorts of weird and wonderful things, and you can build a space rocket out of one. Or at least do the plans for it.
This program's exactly the same. That graphic designers use this and come up with all these pictures and all sorts of stuff. And you can do that if you want, but I only just use it for the stuff I use it for.
I was particularly impressed with it, Peter, and the thing that I was impressed about is it gave you quick access to layers in a PDF, which is really valuable, and it allowed you to set all your tree protection stuff up in one layer, which is exactly what ArborCAD does. And does that do it by default, or do you?
No, you have to set up.
No, I know it doesn't with your software. That's why I was asking ArborCAD users.
Hi.
When you're using it, you can have multiple layers and put information into layers. So it's the same problem. You've got to keep it all in one layer, or you should. Ideally, a tree protection plan that's digital, that's being used by other parts of the design team, you'd have that sat there in the one layer, so they can just take that layer and put it on any of the other plans that they want. That's the advantage of keeping things in a layer. And it's interesting. The reason we have CAD in the diploma of a broadcast qualification as a elective and a desirable is there was a big push to have it all plans done digitally, and a part of that comes from Peter Carson. I said, so what software are you using? He said, I don't. I just get a drafts person to do it. And I said, why? He said, because it's probably 5 times quicker to get a drafts person to do it than to do it myself. And there's that way up that constantly you have to look at. And that's a difficult one. If you're someone like Vicky, who's doing landscape design, then, you know, and that's right, you do landscape design, don't you, Vicky?
Yes, I do. I use Vectorworks software, but I'm doing design work and the tree work.
Yeah, so when you're doing a lot more design work, keeping up to date with it's really good. In my earlier days, there was an arborist out of Canberra called Bruno Wright, or he's still around, and Bruno was a CAD trainer. And, you know, my question for Bruno is, you know, what do I do? How do I do this? And he said, you know, it keeps on changing on him. And he gets it mastered, then there's an update, and he's got to go through the learning process again. And so, and that's I think a problem we've all faced with all software.
Yeah, I think they're the beams from
Is Peter frozen?
No, I'm here. I'm just listening. Somebody was saying something very quietly. I couldn't quite catch it.
Yeah, I think there was a conversation in the background going on.
Oh, is that what it was?
So yes, look, we're at a situation where if you don't want to go out and play with Vectorworks, which is again big, it's about $2,500 piece of software, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's more. It's more like $3,000, and then you have to pay $1,000 a year.
Okay, and $1,000 a year. That's paid
so
for. And AutoCAD's got an annual licensing fee to it as well, hasn't it? Or sorry, ArborCAD.
Oh,
You can buy it outright.
I just looked at it at ArborCAD. It's about 5,000 outright, or 4,500.
Okay.
And if you buy a particular version, you can continue using that version. But if you want to update to the next version and you've missed a couple, then you've got to pay for each version or a percent version as you go along too. So
yeah, I mean, you wonder why the wealthiest sort of top 10 in the world are software developers. And so the nice thing about this is the software that Peter's using is really low cost. I mean, you could use the same thing. There's a software called DraftSite, This is probably a little bit neater and cleaner than DraftSite. The DraftSite's 2D free. Google has one there that's free. You know, but the real advantage is delivering a report with a digital plan increases the likelihood. It doesn't necessarily mean, but it increases the likelihood that the tree protection information will be downloaded on each layer. And downloading it on each layer of the plan set means that there's an increased likelihood that the people that are doing the work won't damage the trees. That's the real critical component. And last year I saw for the first time ever Ku-ring-gai Council requiring as a condition of consent to proceed was that all files had to be updated with the tree protection zone on it. And I thought, oh my, finally at last we're having it happen. Because when that happens, the plumber gets, the electrician gets it, you know, everyone gets to see where this tree protection zone is and what it means and the details of it. So being able to put it onto a plan. So Peter, do you want to just show us a little bit more of that software in application? Can you show us one that you've done?
Show you one that I've done. So yes, I was showing you a report that I've done. So, and this is a drawing that I've added the tree protection zones to and the tree numbers as well.
Yep.
And I don't think I've got a fence on this particular one. Let's see if I've got another one that I can share with you.
And as I understand it from my experiences, they all have some degree of similarity.
So this is one that I've been working on, and the client, council made us define a no-go zone, and they didn't like the no-go zone, so I've had to amend it. So this is the no-go zone here, and I've just changed that. So I've been able to do that simply by going in here and finding that drawing. There it is there, and by using this device here, then I can get at that particular drawing and manipulate it. So I just move things around to suit myself. I can shade it by process. I can color it, do various things, manipulate it in various ways. So here I've got a tree protection zone shown and a structure root zone shown. And if I want to, I can whack a fence up, as I showed you before.
And so, Peter, did you add those numbers and the TPZ calculations on there, or did someone else do that?
No, I did that.
Okay. Yep. So you can annotate it and put things off to the side and do all sorts of things
so
like that.
I can write stuff on it by using this.
Yep.
And if I want to, I can resize it. I can resize it a couple of different ways and change the font and so forth.
Yep. Okay. And in terms of now, if you wanted to save this as a doc file, you would just go
save it as a, well, I won't save it as a doc file. I'll save it as one of these. This is the suite that allows me to save it. So if I would have to save it as a PDF and then convert that, wouldn't I? I don't know how you save.
No, you could save it as a JPEG.
Okay.
And then you
I
could
see what you mean. Yeah. You would save it as probably a JPEG or a PNG.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you work.
I'd probably do it as a JPEG and then send a copy of the file. So you'd end up sending a client, or you could convert it to a PDF and put the whole thing together in a PDF. Let me ask
Yeah,
the
you
group
could,
how
if
they
you-
handle that.
If you write your Word document as a Word and then turn that into a PDF, then my PDF viewer will allow me to add stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So I can just stick a page in. I'm not sure how you would make the word count, the page count, date, etc.
You swap a page out. So you put a page in and you take a page out, Peter.
Okay.
So you put a dummy page in and you take it out. I don't know how other people handle that. Let's get the group again to give us some feedback. I'm just trying to find them. Yep, gotcha, guys. Okay, so when you're doing it in ArborCAD, you're then exporting that as or saving that as a PDF to put into your report. Is that right?
Yeah, it's what I do.
Yeah.
And then as a PNG, and then bring that over into my.
Yeah.
You're doing it as a PNG to put into Word, because if you put it in as a PDF, Word hates it. Is that right?
Yeah. Listen, I'm not great with computers, but Word is extremely painful.
Well, Word and PDF just don't want to work together. I mean, it's a real annoyance, and you go insert and you follow all the instructions and you do everything they say, and it says screw you.
I've had Excel and Word not want to work together, and they're from the same family.
Yeah,
I found that with Microsoft Office with Word, and you have a PDF, the quality, I do like a snapshot of the screen. And so the quality of the PDF you can put in the Word document depends on the quality of your screen resolution.
Yeah.
So I've done a
When
lot
you
of
take a
reading
snapshot,
done a lot of reading about that, and that's how I do it on I've got a very good quality screen, and I do it from that.
So the advantage of saving it as a PNG or a JPEG is you're saving it as an image and then putting that in. But then that means if you want the client to use the file or the plan, you need to also provide the plan digitally. If you don't, they can't use that drawing digitally. They can use it, and it's wonderful. And that's what I would say probably 90% of our profession is still doing, probably more.
but it's still basically, unless you provide it separately digitally, it's just an image that you're providing. And
that's right. Yeah. You're providing a facsimile of it, so to speak.
yeah. So that's one of the major problems that I have with Word, is that it just has this huge glitch in it.
So then, yes. And then if you deliver it, you can deliver it as a PDF, but if you're delivering it as a PDF, then you need to insert the PDF file, save it as a PDF and insert it as a PDF, not insert it as a JPEG, if that makes sense. It's a bit of a fiddly process, particularly if you're working in Word. Who's working in an environment other than Word? Anyone?
Apart from me.
Apart from Peter? I mean, in terms of its opportunity to do things, there are certainly advantages with Word. In terms of grammar software, there's Ginger and Grammarly, as we've talked about. There's the ability to put a really good sized botanical dictionary in it. You haven't been able to get that dictionary into your system yet, have you, Peter?
I haven't tried, but yes, you can certainly add whatever word you like into your dictionary.
Okay.
I'm not sure. You like to access it via a shortcut, don't you? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. It refers to a file. It refers to what Word runs it by referring to what they call a .dic file,
Yeah,
or .dic file.
I'm not sure that this does that, but certainly it's got a spelling aspect to it where you can check spellings, and you can add your own words. So I have all, I teach it to recognize the botanical names of the trees that I use.
Yeah, okay. So if you can do that, you should be able. You might have to import the entire, so you can access that file. It is in the WAR folder of materials. You can open that. It's just a list of names. You can open it up on your computer and have a look at it. And you just Control-C, Control Copy, all, or Control Copy, and then move it in and paste it in. Or if I had to put it in individually, I'd go crazy. I wouldn't want to do that. But being able to start with 35,000 odd plant names or tree names to start off with does have its advantages. And Andrew's got there with a little bit of a grin on. I know that Andrew is one of those guys that can remember how to spell correctly every name. But I've been struggling with just basics. And I think it's an issue that our profession, again, suffers from, is this process of getting botanical names right. So, but I love the fact that the drawing software, Peter, is so similar to DraftSight, so similar in many ways to the CAD or the vector work type things, in that it's working in this layered drawing format. That it allows you to add benefit to the client, and at a cost that is not an ArborCAD cost. And I'll make a wager, Peter, that if you went across to ArborCAD, you'd probably be able to do so a lot quicker, having worked already in that format. They all share a degree of similarity, according.
Yeah, that basic way of thinking about things. It took a little bit of time for me to get to grips with the idea of using layers. So at first I wasn't all that good at it, so I tended to forget to put and so I'd have my drawing scattered over a few different layers, and then I'd wonder where it was, and I'd have to go and fetch it, and I'd draw onto the original drawing, which wasn't great. But now I've got it kind of worked out, and I can automatically size stuff. So as you say, I find it very useful these days. Clients will send me a set of drawings, and I'll go and do my report and get it all finished, and it's all great. Yeah, good. Get it sent off, even get it paid for, and then they come back and say, "Oh, we've updated the drawing. Can you update your report?" So now I can just go to that program, to that file, copy those layers, and get the new one and drop it straight in. It takes sometimes literally 15 seconds to 30 seconds to update the report.
And Vicky and ArborCAD users, I assume you all experience the same process, that once it's on a layer, it just makes it so much more useful and portable, which is the whole concept of going digital. It wasn't that you draw it, it was the whole concept was we really need our end user to have it digitally. And when we give it to them in a report, a Word file that you've PDF'd, unless you've imported a layered PDF into that Word file, into that final PDF, it fails to do that. So it really hasn't achieved the end result to date. So I think that's important to keep in mind. We need the layers in the hands of the design team. Now, another way of doing it, for those of you who don't want to go out and do any of this learning curve, and I understand why you don't want to, is just ask the design team to do it. I mean, I often will say to an architect, you know, I can sit down and draw up and find out what the area of encroachment is, but you can do that in 2 seconds already. Why waste my time? Go out.
Yeah, but sometimes you can get them to do it. Sometimes it takes longer to get them to actually do what you want than it is to do.
I agree, but it's just that process again, that if there is this request, and certainly I've had it on a condition of consent that the tree protection plan had to be all drawn and shown in terms of the final plans. As I said, Kringai Council's now doing it, and I just said to the architect, you know, there it is as a Word document. Work the magic back through. You've got all the details, all the specs. You just need to do it. And he would have just got a draftsperson. I mean, I can't imagine the architect doing it himself.
Yeah.
Adam Tom, who's not on the call, Adam has a daughter that's a draftsperson, and she does his in no time at all. And you know, somebody who's doing
and
nothing.
That's exactly right. If you want it to go through all of the drawings, then you need to get them to do it, because you can produce a drawing and give it to them, but unless it goes onto all of the drawings, then it.
And that's what I'm saying, but is now we've had our first council say that's a requirement starting construction certificate. So to get your construction certificate, all drawings must be redrawn with the the tree protection zones and the tree protection information on the plan set, which I think is really what we're trying to get to in this digital process.
I find the large developers I'm working with request the DWG with that information, and then they overlay it onto their drawings.
Yeah.
They'll incorporate it. Yeah.
Yeah, and we had a problem recently, Vicky, where we didn't give it to them as a layered PDF, and they said, well, that's what we wanted. And we said, well, you know, unfortunately, that's what you didn't specify. But that's when I called Peter and said, look, can you talk me through this process? And there certainly were learning curves in that process, lots of them. So even if you don't intend to do it on a regular basis, I'd encourage you to get out there and at least, you know, with something like DraftSight or sorry, what's the name of the software that you're using, Peter?
It is Affinity.
Affinity, that's right. Affinity Designer, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the.
Yeah.
There's three. There's a word processor, a drawing program, and a Photoshop. With the drawing program's designer.
Yeah. So Affinity Designer, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Affinity Designer. For I think it's about $140 at the moment.
109.
109, is it?
Yeah. Currently.
So it's not overly expensive. You know, if you had to pay for an upgrade every 2 or 3 years, I think that's well and truly comparable with anything else. And just start getting to the used to that process of working in the digital realm and in layers. It's not much different in some ways than using Word drawing, except it doesn't think in the same format. And that's what I'm saying. When you start thinking in the computer-aided drawing format, I mean, Vicky does use Vectorworks. You know, Vicky could go across to ArborCAD, and there's probably going to be a 50 to 75% similarity in process and even icons between the two that will allow some transitioning and reduce lead time. So my thought is, you know, it's probably worthwhile having Affinity Designer or ArborSight on your computer and just playing with it when you've got some spare time. Just getting used to put out that first little plan, you know, try something simple, one tree, one protection area, brief, swear and scream and, you know, do all the things you've got to do in that learning curve. So that when the time does come and you are in that situation where you're saying, yes, well, I'm going to do that to get the contract, you've not got the same initial learning curves. And had I not played with DraftSight with students prior to doing what I did with Peter, I would have been batshit crazy trying to sort out that process. So it's just a matter of spending a little bit of time to get familiar with it.
This, as you say, Mark, this idea of being able to use layers is really revolutionary. It changes how you can do so many things.
Yeah, and the fact that you can do things like scale an item, which you can't do in something like Word. There's just no capacity to do anything that's 2D drawing in Word or in Pages. It's just a non-going. Yet we're wanting to communicate in using something like a word processing software. Has anyone tried Adobe to do all their documents as a straight software?
Yes.
I use Adobe for PDFs.
So
do you use it to write with Vicky, or do you just?
I use it to modify PDFs and combine PDFs and change all the wording, everything.
So Mark, I before I got onto this publisher, I used to use the Adobe InDesign and their word processor, and it's very similar to this Affinity stuff in the way that it works. It's a lot more complicated and allows you a few extra tools, but it's also much more expensive. So I think
I was going to say it adds an extra zero on the price of the purchase.
Yeah. So I think I stopped using it when they wanted about $1,400 or $1,600 for the year, and it's also geographically priced, so we pay more in Australia. And I rang them up and said, what's the go here? Why do I have to pay more because I live in Australia? And they said, well, if you don't want to pay, don't use it. And so I said, okay, I won't.
Yeah.
But this is actually a little bit more user friendly. In the Adobe's kind of complicated to use.
It's interesting you talk about that regionality of software. Microsoft does exactly the same thing, and Australia is considered the country that's most willing to pay the highest price for technology. I think it's just amazing. It's like, okay, if we want to know how bad people are going to be, let's just try Australia.
I voted with my feet.
Yeah. Look, and again, a lot of people have done the same. And I have to say, in terms of PDF manipulation software, I use a different piece of software altogether, and it's not Adobe, and it's got nowhere near the same capacity. But it's $120 every 3 or 4 years that I've got to update the software. It's not that it's not updating between then. It's one of those things that you don't need to update it, and when you do, you just pay to go to the current version, no paying for steps in between. Which
Can I ask which one you use?
I think I'm using PDF Pro at the moment. I'm not on my computer. I'm away in a motel room, and this little laptop, which is why you see me putting my glasses on, because you're all tiny. I'm pretty sure it's PDF Pro that I'm using, but there's probably 50.
I think I've used that before. Yeah.
Yeah, there's probably about 50 reasonable PDF manipulating things. And the things that I want PDF software to do is be able to add a signature, be able to delete sections out of the PDF. So, the copyright notice at the bottom of Owen's report, so he doesn't know I'm using it. I want to be able to delete a page. Want to be able to add a page.
Extract a page.
Yeah, that's right. All that sort of very basic stuff. In terms of
stuff.
Don't do that much editing, because if I've written the document, it's already in Word, and that's where I'd go back to edit it. If it was somebody else's document, I'm not going to be editing it. And that was always the problem when I was editing your document, Peter, is I convert it back to Word and then play with it in Word and then send it back to you as an edited document. But in most PDF software will convert to Word, but it does a poor job of it. Even Adobe does a poor job of it, because they're not the same. A portable document file and a word processing file have a lot of similarities, but
you can work inside the PDF, but it's really lumpy, and unless you're doing just basic stuff, yeah, you're right. It's not really all that useful.
And that's why I said I use it to manipulate files rather than to produce files. And certainly I think we've all experienced here and said those that are using Word and try to insert a PDF, it's just a nightmare. It really has not been an easy process. And I agree with Vicky. I think everyone should have a 54-inch screen on their desk, but that's just because I'm going slowly blind. And yes, you want a 4K screen. Again, perfectly correct is that if you're using Clipit or Snippet or whatever it is that you're using, that's just doing essentially the pixels that's on the screen. What I find amazing is that sometimes, Vicky, that's better than when I insert a JPEG, which is really freaky. So yes, that's good. Any other comments or thoughts on software with Arborist? I'll give you a couple of others. So ImageJ is another piece of software that I think has real use for Arborist. There's no cost to it. ImageJ is free. And if you're out in the field and you're not as forgetful as me, it's probably not so bad, but you're out in the field, you've walked for 200 meters from where you parked your car to take compile stuff for a tree protection zone, and you want to measure a trunk diameter and you don't have it with you, I just put my folder down against the tree, photograph it, and ImageJ will allow me to scale that in the photograph. So allow me to go back to the office and say, how wide was it? How high was it? And what sort of canopy spread? All those sort of things. So that's useful.
I use it all the time, Mark, but I use it to work out the encroachments into tree textures.
Area encroachment, yeah, likewise, Peter.
So I get my drawing that I've drawn in Designer, and instead of saving it as a PDF, I save it as a PNG or a JPEG, and then I can stick it into Image J and just draw the encroachment, whatever shape it is, and bingo, it's got the number for me.
That's right. Yep. So I do the same, Peter. And the area of the canopy, which occasionally I've been asked for, and the area of an encroachment or the area of overhang. I just had one with Sydney Council that said, look, it overhangs the neighbour's property by 30%. I said, actually, not quite. Try 7.5%, but that's close enough. And had to go through that process of taking in aerial images and drawing on the outside of it. So it's useful in that way. If you're really clever, you can use it to count different colours. So, you know, if you want to do a vitality test with iodine and potassium iodide, you could quantify that if you wanted to by saying, you know, how many dark squares, how many light squares or pixels, how many times does the black pixel or, you know, darker than 80% black come up. So there are certainly advantage in that, and the price is perfect, which is $0. I don't know of anything else that does it
as well.
Yeah, well, there is an area one that does do it, Peter, that's online. But they charge you, I think, about $7 or $8 a time, whereas Image J is a freebie. Has anyone else got any software or thoughts of stuff that they use that's worthwhile? No hands up there. So there are some for you. Obviously, photo manipulation, and we talked about that, I think, last block. You know, Word does it in terms of internally. I don't know whether your photo manipulation, Peter, is done through a third piece of software. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's basically it's very similar to Adobe's Photoshop, so you can do all that sort of stuff. I don't use it, so I'm not familiar with how to drive it, but I know that it exists and it's got all the same tools that the Adobe's Photoshop has.
So certainly, and I mentioned it, and again, I'll explain why one more time, is that if you've been out taking photographs in the last year, chance you've been out on a cloudy day. Anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you take a shot on a cloudy day, the white behind overexposes. And so to deal with that, the camera will, unless you tell it to change your f-stops, the camera will make the tree darker than it would have otherwise been, and the background then comes back into the color ranges. So there's certainly advantages if you're taking photographs on a cloudy day in adjusting the exposure.
I do those adjustments just on the phone or just in the...
Okay, so again, yeah, it doesn't matter where, it does need to be adjusted. The other thing to keep in mind is that when someone's going to a print version of a document or a PowerPoint presentation, you need to overexpose as well. It's very different than when you've got it as a straight digital. So when it's being projected up on the screen or when you're reading it in print, it's hard. And I think we've all received a report at some stage from another arborist where you look at the photograph and you think, oh, I can barely make it out, even though you've got it as I mean, solicitors are horrible. They scan, I don't know why they do it. They scan a PDF and give it to you as a scanned PDF that's completely unusable. But when you get an original document, you'll see photographs and you're sitting there and you're looking at it thinking, I can't tell. And many times I've got to go into a digital file and then go to that page and then expand it, you know, maybe 300-400 times to be able to see that information. And that may be just because I'm getting older, but I suspect that it's also not the case. I suspect that it's in many cases because we're not looking at it and saying, can a general member of the public pick this and see what I'm talking about? And so that's where asking yourself, is that really clear? And I've almost stopped going to anything smaller than a half-page image for most images now, just to make it clear. And the last comment I'll make that came back to me the other day, and I'm always tweaking and trying things, I was doing a school tree risk assessment, and no, it wasn't. It was a tree risk assessment for a church group, sorry. And as I was doing the photographs, I thought I'll just indicate on the photographs what I recommend. So I recommend this tree to be removed, recommend this tree to be pruned. And the arborist that went out and did it called me and said, by far the easiest report he's ever read, because he didn't have to do anything more than look at the pictures and the captions. And I'm now tempted to add a brief summary of the recommendations with every picture, again, just to try and facilitate that communication process. We're not trying to write the prettiest documents. We're trying to write documents that are effective in communicating.
Mm.
Can I ask what people generally do with their photos? Because I'm guilty of trying to squeeze 4 onto a page that are about 9 centimeters each, but then my figure caption trying to describe what orientation it is, and you know, it pushes everything out, and it can be, but I'll try to put red dashed lines saying it's to remove this limb, facing this way. Is that sort of what other people are doing with their reports?
Except 2 to the page. So I was doing 4, and I take almost every shot. I think I showed that sideways. If I haven't taken it sideways, I'll often try and crop it to a landscape shape. And if that doesn't work, I will run 2 verticals on a page if I have to, or 1 vertical to the entire page. If the information in that photograph isn't easy, and Sydney Council, I don't know who here deals with Sydney Council, but Sydney Council wants you to show every branch that you're going to remove when you're doing something like a scaffold installation. And trying to show that on photographs that are 2-dimensional is just such a pain in the neck that I scream and yell and think, you know, you guys have never done it. You just ask for it. Because nobody would ask for it if they understood how horrible it is. I mean, I go out there and I don't know whether, again, it's a useful piece of equipment. Who here's got a pole meter?
What?
Pole meter. A pole meter is used in the electrical industry, and you can get them 8, 10, 12, probably smaller as well. So I have an 8-meter pole meter that I have, and you just pull out sections of the pole and keep on going up. And I use that because I can actually touch the branch with that and then photograph it in situ. And so you can say, you know, it's the branch at 6.2 meters above ground at this spot here. It's just so laborious and it's so ridiculous. And then the last thing, of course, is the arborist gets that document. It doesn't matter what arborist sees, 9 times out of 10, they're going to get something wrong with it. Probably half of it. You know, it's unfortunate to say it, it's use your intelligence when you're pruning, guys, and you're getting people saying, look, we don't want you to use any discretion in your pruning. So you get those 2 things together, and that's really a difficult process for an arborist to work in, a practicing arborist. I'd hate to be trying to do it. So yes, that's my answer, Mark, is try and just ask yourself, can a person read this and see this from the image and get it right? And I would say if you're looking at pruning, it's really hard. So specifying your pruning with words the best as you can. So, you know, don't make cuts greater than 50 millimeters in diameter, or keep an average cut of 25 millimeters in diameter. Those sort of things help regulate it. But I've been back to stuff that I specified and thought, surely I didn't write that. Because what happens is an interpretation by a third party. And hence why Sydney Council does want every part shown, but why it's also incredibly difficult to do that.
I've seen a job at Rose Bay, City of Sydney, specified arborist on the roof, all the drawings, all the cuts and everything, and then the construction guys just lopped off all those limbs that they were told they weren't allowed to cut.
Yeah, and it's the frustration both ways. It's, you know, when you start looking at it and you say, well, look, to write how to remove, say, 20 branches from a brush box, smaller branches, might take you 4 or 5 hours to write. You know, and they're saying, this is just going ridiculous. You know, I'm spending $1,000 to have somebody tell me how to make some cuts. Tying things back and pushing things back is great, but again, I'm always with the unknown. I did a matter in the district court in Melbourne a few years ago, and that was one of the things I said is, I don't know how far this is going to push. it's going to depend on the time of the year, the turgidity of the branch, the strength of the parties involved, how they go to pull it back. So we need to look at alternatives, and we allowed on one of the branches for the possibility that it would grow, it'll be left and penetrate through the scaffold, through the corner of the thing, and be retained within the scaffold zone. And that wasn't overly popular for the city's perspective, but it was practical in terms of I didn't want to remove the branch. It was a fairly large size branch, and I didn't think we were going to get enough clearance to push it 200 odd mils back. So I think we're at liberty to try and be intelligent about the process. The one thing that I will say, and I'm giving a talk tomorrow in Queensland, and one of the key messages I've got for trees and development sites is that if we're not trying to retain trees and failing, we are probably failing. We're removing more trees than we need to, and I think that's a failure. We should be pushing and trying to find more of the limits, and I don't think we are, because our builders certainly do a lot better job of pushing the limits than I would ever think of doing. And I go back to sites and I think, oh no, what the hell have you done? And I'm old now, and so I go back past some of those sites 20 years later and think, okay, they were right, I was wrong. I think we really do have a need to sort of balance that up in our processes. Any other thoughts or comments, guys? Now, let me ask one last question. I know I asked it last time. This is one that Peter's going to have to do with, is what subjects do you want us to look at? What things do you want us to look at in terms of future meetings? If we don't have everything, maybe we've gone through enough of the basic information and we should pour wall to an end. If there's stuff, then we're happy to discuss whatever you want.
I wanted to look at the legal side of developers and builders being responsible for damage they do to trees.
Yep. Okay.
Should we have a contract, or, you know, yeah, the whole thing about you're specifying and you do the hold points and everything, and then they're still damaging all the trees.
Great. So that I'm happy to do that and look at that process of the legal position and trees.
Yeah.
At the next war. Anyone else got something they want to have?
I'm interested in how to build fences in urban areas, so in residential areas. So if we've got a boundary fence and there's vegetation on the boundary fence, what are the rules around that?
Okay. Yep. Peter, can you make a note of these things and email me?
Yep.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to look at, I know that the committee is one of the things it's looking at for the revision of the Australian standard is to whether we should have temporary rigid fences in place. So one of the problems that I see on development sites is I put a fence zone up, it gets put in with 12 panels, and 2 days later the whole thing's pushed to one side, and you know, access is widened because you can push those concrete based ones. Two big guys can do it quite easily and push the fence miles out of alignment. Has anyone else had that experience, or is that just
Yep.
Yeah. So there are several options for that. One is, you know, using star pickets and an alternative design fence, and the second one is there actually is a standard for temporary semi-permanent fencing, you know, temporary semi-permanent fencing, and we're saying, look, maybe that should be included in the standard. Maybe we should be looking at saying, where possible, the fence should be erected that's somewhat permanent. The advantage of that is there'll be less moving of our panels. And the second advantage is most fencing contractors, or most fence panels, work in a fixed length, usually 2 meters. It means you can have a 3 meter length without having to sort of have 2 panels. The drawback of it, of course, is if you're using chain link and separate posts, then you've got to pull it apart. But there was a crowd, and I think I mentioned it last time, there's a crowd in the central coast of New South Wales, Central Coast region, that had these temporary panels that you drove in with star pickers, and once you put them in, essentially you needed a post hole remover to remove the the star picket before you could shift the panels or move the panels. And that was a really neat little system, and I like that. And I think that it gave that certainty that it's not that they can't move the fence panel, but that becomes a major project, not a let's quickly undo 2 bolts and pull, or 1 bolt and pull that panel and shift it out of the way, and now we're in there. Anything else, people?
Scaffolding. What are the standards around scaffolding? How big are they? They're never on the plans. How do you know?
They're never.
Like the tree in Rose Bay, the problem was this, 300 mil branch that they weren't supposed to cut. On that side of the building, they put a return fencing made out of scaffolding, return stairway made out of scaffolding. It must have been 2 meters wide.
Yeah, and same every time you go around corners, because scaffold is in rigid lengths, there are these issues. So if we can do scaffold and fences on the one event, Peter, that would be great, because they're similar issues. And the standard is, at the stage that it is being reviewed, committee's been formed. So hopefully in 2 years, that's the sort of time frame we reckon it will take to do the revision. Hopefully in 2 years, we'll have an updated standard that will at least articulate some of those things better than it currently does. Anything else, people? And I promised you that I'd go through after this one, a report, legal report template, and just go through that. So I'll do that as well. Numbering your paragraphs, your expert witness code of conduct, your CV. We haven't looked at things like glossaries and things like that. And unfortunately, none of the software that's out there is glossary friendly. And arborists do use the occasional bit of language that's rather peculiar. So trying to deal with that would be important. Anything else?
Yeah, I've missed a few of the later ones. What about referencing? Do people have EndNote and Zotero, or do they just have a list on a Word document like I do and cut and paste their references over, or handwrite them each time?
So it depends, Mark, on so my answer is it depends on what document I'm dealing with. Whatever document I'm dealing with, my push after I was chartered by Commissioner Fakes is to use the same referencing system right through the one document. So if I start going Chicago, it's all Chicago. So if I'm in court, outside the Land Environment Court, I'll Chicago. If I'm doing a report for the Land Environment Court, I'll Harvard and then reference. If it's a shorter document, I'll Harvard and footnote it to make it easier. I mean, all the purpose, let's be honest, what's the purpose of a reference?
You want
to verify what you're saying.
Yeah, to allow people to go and say, Mr. Hartley says that this is what Hamilton is saying about cutting tree roots, but what does Hamilton say? And it's really easy. I'm as guilty as any of you. It's really easy to read a publication with a preconceived perception in your head and have that all to the way you do it. It's really easy to cherry pick information. And I was involved in a case a few years back where the arborist and the barrister sat there and he said, look, this document says X, Y, Z. And I said, absolutely. And so there could potentially be some harm to the tree if we were to do substantial root damage. I said, but if you read the document, the author defines substantial root damage is taking 50% or more of the root system out. I said, and we're talking about taking 6% out. So I don't think we're talking about the same end consequence. And so again, he had cherry-picked, the barrister had cherry-picked the paper. And so that's what it's there for. It's allow you to go back and verify that information. So as long as they can get that, as long as it's clear, it really shouldn't matter. However, some people are pedantic about it. And if you're writing to an academic, if you're writing to, the Chief Justice of our court in New South Wales, talk about an academic, the guy blows my brains. then you don't want him to be looking at things and saying, oh, hang on a second here, the referencing system suddenly changed, and get uncomfortable with that and get worried about that. So, and yes, unfortunately, psychology has a different one than science, has a different one than the legal industry. The legal industry in Australia has its own referencing system. And so if I'm doing a case for a higher court, I'll often follow their referencing system, which I hate. So you wind up, and you'll see it in a couple of my reports if you find them on the net, where we, use those lovely phrases like IBID, the same as above. What a silly thing to have to do it for every time you use the same reference, but that's the way they do. So they footnote, and very much based on the Chicago system. Does that help, Mark?
Yes, I sort of meant more what programs people use to
okay.
their referencing, but yes, that is helpful too.
Yeah, so okay. There is some software, EndNote, you mentioned that already. Word has it built into their system as well. Ultimately, you've got to put it in. Mine is, and I think I showed it to you, mine's most sloppily in a Word document. And I just open up the references Word document and pull the document that I want.
That's exactly what I do, yeah.
And
I do the same.
Yeah.
And I'd say 90% of the time, if I wanted a single reference very quickly, so I've been referencing Honda a fair bit lately, I'll just go Google search in Scholar, and then cite, copy, because it's as quick to do that as to open a Word file, find the reference and go across. So if you've got some idea about the author and the title of it, Google Scholar, and then that allows you to cite it in whatever format you want under a drop down. But yeah, look, we can have a play with that, Peter, if you want, when we do perhaps legal reports. Look at how you can standardize things. Anyone else?
What about disclaimers and things like that in reports?
That's an interesting one, David. I'm a proponent for not having a disclaimer. And I'm a proponent for it because I'm not sure that I'm exposed to anything beyond what I'm lawfully responsible for, and I'm not going to get sued for anything. So, communicating is the process. So if I'm asked to look at the tree in the front yard, and that's what I say was my brief, they're not going to come back to me and say, hey, you didn't look at the backyard. I don't think legally. So many, many years ago in a different life, I owned a skate park, Australia's first skateboard park, when it was commercially operated, not councils giving it away for free, the scumbags. And that was one of the real questions is, what do we do? If I put a disclaimer up, if I have you skate at your own risk, well, that's obviously the case. But my solicitor was really clear on one thing. That does not give you any room to be sloppy with anything else. That means if you've got a fallen branch on the track, if you've got, dirt around, if you've not repaired or maintained something, you're still screwed in spite of that sign up there. So I sort of feel the same way in terms of writing a report. What you've got is a sign saying, look, this is what I did based on the time that I inspected it. No reasonable court will have expected you to written it based on something that you haven't seen.
Sure.
And arborists seldom get sued. But if we can add perhaps looking at Turner's case, Woods v. Mercedes was the case. Wood v. Mercedes, Turner is it was an arborist, it's sort of an arborist who's doing some horticultural services. And he gets sued.
He's got to be one of the few arborists that's been sued, or his estate was sued.
Sorry?
Wasn't his estate sued?
Yes, his estate was sued. And that raises one other interesting thing is, are you responsible after you die? And the answer is yes. And I know Derek's online, or he was online. Derek worked for a boss that died. And I said, for goodness sakes, let the family for at least a few years after he has died, continue with the insurance, because you are still liable even once you die. So, and you're essentially liable for fairly serious things, but you're still liable. So, I've looked at the tree. I said,
you've got to be negligent in some way, though, really, haven't you?
Absolutely. Only way you are going to be determined to be responsible is if you are negligent. The problem is when you're dead, it's a lot harder defending yourself. So I think those last, 4 or 5 years after you've retired and finally stopped, are important years to continue to insure. So Peter, I know you and I are getting close to that mark. Vicky's another decade behind us, but she's on her way. I know Derek is probably not too far behind you and I. We just need to be careful about our professional indemnity insurance. It's relatively cheap insurance, so paying that on for the next 4 or 5 years after we retire is a highly prudent move. Do I think I'm ever going to get sued? No, but I always acknowledge there's a chance. So yes, look, I'm happy to add disclaimers into that legal day, Peter.
Yep.
I think that's a good topic to go in there. So thank you for that. That was a good question. Anyone else got something they want to discuss at war? So we've got enough for at least 3 more war meetings. So I'll see you guys in a month's time.
All right.
Thanks.